We really haven't talked as a group since Oklahoma. The executive committee has been meeting every 2 weeks since then, and we have some updates for y'all. So I guess the first line of business is the approval of the minutes that were posted. If there's any additions or corrections from the minutes from October 7th and 8th. If not, I hear a motion to
Motion.
That's Alabama. Do we have a second?
That's correct.
Right, as Utah second.
Thank you, sir. Anybody
Hey,
opposed?
Joe.
Yep.
Joe, before you call the question, this is Jean Marie. I had submitted a few things, kind of minor things via an email to both Sue and Andy. Just want to make sure that those were received.
They are received, and I'd be happy to update. You know, I'm going to consult with Andy, but they're housekeeping. Thank you, Jean Marie. There's some housekeeping changes.
Yep.
Respectfully, nothing substantive.
No, this is Andy.
Go ahead, Andy.
So I guess that's just a friendly amendment to the motion that Jean Marie's recommendations, which I have reviewed and I concur with them, as does Sue, that they just be incorporated into the changes into the final version.
Alabama, you okay with that?
Absolutely.
And Utah?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, then. So we have a first and a second for the amended edits to the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The minutes are adopted as amended. Why don't we move on to the advocacy update? Susan, I'm going to start with you.
Just going to click on this. A little bit out of order. I put this slide first for members of the commission as well as anyone in the public that's attending on the www.emsreplica.org website under Compact Governance. There is now a calendar that it is a consolidated place, and actually we have the upcoming Tennessee meeting is already on this calendar as well, but this is just a quick snapshot. So any of the meetings, the official notices, the agendas that are part of that official notice, and the minutes are all landing in one place, just in an effort to consolidate this information. This is the same practice that the PT Compact is using as well, and we talked about it at the executive committee level, and it's something that I think works pretty nicely. Just some high points for you all on what's it's certainly been a busy time. There's some different activities that I've been involved in, some of which is supporting the commission operations, so following up on any of the inaugural meeting in terms of doing minutes, making sure any of the any of the invoices that were related to any piece of the meeting that had a cost related to it, those were all taken care of and in line with what it had been budgeted. Preparation, support for any of the executive committee meeting calls, including coordinating again on the minutes with the secretary and getting those posted. I participated in an ambulance association. The AAA sponsored a webinar on Replica, a nationwide webinar, so I participated, and they hosted it, and I participated in that, led the conversation. I've presented at the International Association of EMS Chiefs in Washington, D.C. last week, which is our most recent group that endorses Replica, and that was a great discussion. I've been working with the Department of Defense. They have a group of liaisons for family and community practice that have selected 4 compacts to support because they have provisions in them that support separating members of the military and their spouses. So Replica and the Nursing Compact and the Physicians Compact and the PT Compact are that group. So we're lucky to have their support, and I actually correspond with them pretty routinely right now. I've been getting prepared to launch some updates to the website on the advocacy toolkit side, especially in the frequently asked questions, because over the past year and gearing up towards moving forward next year and with the commission, there have been a number of great questions that have come forward. So we will be launching those updates as of the first of the year. And I have had the pleasure of meeting with the PT Compact Administrator as well as the Physician Compact Administrator, just talking with them about some of their early day best practices, things that have worked for them, things that haven't worked well for them, so that we could, take that information and use those experiences for the commission moving forward. Just to understand better some of the early days of commission practices. So there's certainly lots happening with advocacy right now. Daily questions, phone calls. I just got off the phone with a group of lobbyists that are drafting. We're working with the bill language and had some questions from a potential sponsor. And that's, I want to say that's all. There's lots, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you all might have. Oh, preparation for the Tennessee meeting, which is coming up at the end of our call on the agenda. Joe has that on there, but we've gone over the save the date's been sent out, and I did update that this morning to include that the host hotel is going to be the Millennium Maxwell and the cost for that. And that's what I have.
Any questions for Sue? Sue, thank you for all your hard work. I really do believe I speak to you more than I do my wife now. I didn't know that was a part of this job, but it's been my pleasure and continues to be my pleasure to work with you.
And the same with all of you. It's been a great experience. It continues to be, so thank you. And if you're ready, I'll move to the next.
Please.
I've lost my cursor.
So from a commission standpoint, as I said, the exec committee's been meeting every couple weeks since Oklahoma. And I wanted to bring everybody up to date on where we are. First of all, we have signed an agreement with Doug Wolfberg, attorney Doug Wolfberg out of Pennsylvania, who has agreed to represent the commission pro bono. And we've already used them in a couple incidents where there were some questions raised. And I've known Doug myself when I was in Pennsylvania, and I've worked with him on both sides of the table. And I think it'll be, he's excited about doing it, and he offered it, and to do it for nothing. That was, since we have such a huge budget. I guess we did forget, so we probably should have had a treasurer's report today.
We can certainly, since there's no action related to it, you can certainly add that to, it's not really an addition to the agenda, it's just a discussion item.
Yeah, I'm just kidding, because there is no money.
Okay. All right. I took you seriously. Sorry about that. But
that's okay.
In terms,
but anyway, so Doug Wolfberg is on board, and that's been a real plus. We have received two MOU and an agreement for professional services, support services from the NREMC, the registry. The executive committee met last week, week before last, in a non-public meeting to discuss that contract. Just so you all, those agreements, just so you all know what's happening with that. So right now where we're at is that we've reviewed it. We've made some edits to it and some additional language. It's being worked out between with our secretary. He's doing the work on that. And then we'll float it past Doug Wolfberg to make sure we're legally sound. And then Donnie will float it back to you all. I would suspect that in another, maybe 10 days, maybe a little bit less. It was a fair proposal. We're going to try and ask some other additional questions and some clarification, but you'll see that. But I do want to assure all the commissioners on this call is that we will not sign the agreement without y'all seeing it and having input into it. The executive committee will continue to negotiate this back and forth and get to some language, and then we'll come to the full commission for their final vote. Now, hopefully we can get this done before the meeting in February, and if we can't, then we'll finish it up in February. But we'll call a special meeting if that's what we're going to do. But I really do want to assure everybody that we're not trying to do something secretively here. I feel that we've been tasked by the commission to work these agreements and get them to a point where before we bring it to the full commission, and that's exactly what we're doing. So that's where we're at on those two agreements at this, or the MOU and the agreement this time. Is there any questions for me or the board on that? Any questions on the process? Good. I appreciate the support, and we'll keep moving forward and getting that to a happy place so that everyone's comfortable with it. So, so that's really been the bulk of our work since we met in Oklahoma. But the one thing we have really discussed at the EC level and was to start setting up at least the rule committee and get them working on things. So I've asked Jean Marie if she would seek out a chair for that committee, and I think we have. I understand we have one, but Jean Marie, do we have a chair for the Rules Committee?
Yeah, I thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to bring forward the update. Talked with Wayne Denny in Idaho via email, and he did indicate his willingness to chair the Rules Committee.
Okay, and thank you, Wayne. If I remember correctly, it has to be approved by the full commission. Am I right in saying that, Susan?
Yes, you'll need to take a vote on that by your own bylaws.
So, but not for the committee members, just for the chair, right?
Just for establishing the committee, and then the chairperson in their job description is the one who will make the appointments of people to it. So, as a body, you need to take action on this.
Okay. So, and the reason I'm saying the rules, I mean, there's no reason to wait till all the MOUs and all that stuff are in place, but I think it's time that we need to get the rules, excuse me, to do some work on that. And I'm thinking the areas that we need to address would be the personnel working in the different states. How do we process the criminal history stuff between states, and then start talking about the database. So I would like to, Wayne has agreed to, I'd like to receive a motion. Well, I guess we need two motions. The first motion would be to establish a rule committee. Do we have a motion for that?
This is Alyssa from Mississippi. I make that motion.
Welcome, ma'am, from Mississippi, and thank you. Do we have a second?
Joe from Kansas, I'll second.
Thanks, Joe. So we have a motion made and second to establish a rule committee. All in favor? Or any questions? Any public comment? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so we now have a rule committee. So now I needed to receive a motion to, well, before we do that, is there anyone else on this call that would like to chair this committee? Unheard. I would welcome a motion to name Wayne Denny as the chairman of the Rules Committee.
This
We
is
have a
Jean
first.
Marie. I would make that motion.
And how about a second?
Second.
Joe from Kansas, I'll second again.
Thank you, Joe. Any public comment or any comment at all? Wayne, this is your chance to try to get out of it.
I'm happy to do it.
And we thank you for doing it. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Wayne, you've been nominated and elected. And I guess, Wayne, I'll thank you, first of all, for doing this. I think you'll do a great job for us. Do you want to entertain receiving names at this moment, or do you want to just reach out to people after this call? It's really up to you.
It doesn't really matter. I don't have a preference. If people that are interested in participating just want to shoot me an email, and we'll get going.
Cool. And then, Wayne, if you have any questions, I guess you heard what I was talking about, the personnel working in 2 states, the database, the criminal history. I'm thinking they're the kind of the areas where we need to start. And I realize that It's easy to say that. It's a whole lot harder to write that. And
Right.
And then whatever else y'all recommend to us. I mean, it's your committee.
Sure.
I don't believe at this time there's any reason to nominate any other committees. Does anybody disagree with me? I mean, speak up now, please. Okay. You want to change the screen there? So our next full commission meeting will be on February 26th, 1 to 4:30, and then February 27th from 8 to 4:30 in Tennessee. Donna has got us a room at no cost. Thank you, Donna. And I don't think she's on the call at this time. I did check the rate at 159, and that is below GSA rate, so we're good there. We won't get ourselves into trouble. One of the things that we need to talk about today is what does that agenda look like for the meeting in February. And I've spoke to a couple people, and I've spoke to Sue, and one of the things I was thinking, and Wayne, I'd really be interested in your input. Would there be value either on the first day or some of the second day of having what I'm going to call a work session, where we're not going to vote on the rules because we got to do this 60-day notice and all that stuff, but is there value to having somewhat of a work session with some of the commissioners, all the commissioners, whatever, as we're drafting rules and moving down? And I'm interested in anyone's thought, because from a structural standpoint, I mean, I think we can get through our business in a half a day. But if we're going to come together, I would like to use this time to our best advantage, and I'm interested in some other thoughts.
I would definitely agree, Joe. I think having people in the room, we can get a lot more work done. But we'll get some work done ahead of time, at least get some questions drafted up and start working on the answers to those questions. But yeah, I concur that it would be great if we could get some folks together a day ahead of time and have some work.
So, and Sue, help me out here, and I probably have to talk to, from a structural standpoint, we could formally start the meeting on day 2 and have the work session on day 1. Do we have to, I mean, we would still advertise both and open it up to the public and all that, but do we open the meeting and then go into work session, or do we just go into work session and formally open the meeting up on day 2?
I think that I'll confer with Rick Masters, but I think that, I mean, you have a quorum and you have work to be done. So I'd plan to, convene the meeting and the work sessions be part of that meeting. I participated.
Okay, so we would open the meeting,
Yep.
do a welcome at 1 o'clock on the 26th, and then go into work session for the remainder of that day, and maybe even a little bit the next day. I don't know. We'll see. And we can talk offline, Wayne, and see how the progress is going, and then go into the official part. Does that sound like a decent plan for everybody? And we'll get this agenda together. Okay. Seems like we're all on the same page on that. Well, this is going a lot quicker than I thought it was going to go. For the EC members, the executive committee members, since we started this half of the year every other Friday, I'm proposing that we do the same thing starting on December 29th, and then the 12th and the 26th of January, and the 9th and the 23rd of February. And we just put it on our schedules every other Friday. And if there's nothing to do, we just cancel that. Is everybody okay with that concept?
I'm good.
And then,
Yes.
go ahead, Jean Marie.
Oh, I was just agreeing to your question.
Okay. Does anybody disagree with that approach? Okay, good. Then we'll plan that, and then as we share agenda information back and forth, if there's nothing hot going on, we'll just cancel it. I don't know about y'all. It's easier for me to cancel than sometimes make time. Now, Stephen, I know we don't have Donna on the phone, but everybody else is, I think, yeah, everybody else is on the phone. Donna, you didn't join us, did you?
Right now, Joe, if I just can, we have Wayne Denny, Joe House, Elisa Williams, Gary Brown, Stephen Wilson, Andy Gienap, Joe Schmieder, Jean Marie Bakehouse. Am I missing anybody? I mean, there are a group of callers that are unidentified. Guy, all right, I lost you. Sorry, where'd you go?
He always forgets about you. I don't want you to feel like
never.
I recognize.
I enjoy my quiet corner. That's just fine with me.
Okay, yeah, there you are. Okay.
This is Diane Hainsworth from Delaware.
Hey, so Diane's probably one of the callers 1 through 10. Thanks, Diane.
So Stephen, we spoke right before the call started, and the question was, noon is really bad for Stephen. I mean, he could make it work if he had to, but does the rest of the executive committee have any problem? We move it forward or backwards, whatever works out with the conference line. Does anybody have any concerns if we go to like 2 o'clock Central Time or 10 o'clock Central Time? Okay, so you're going to do the research on that, and then we'll figure out what's best, and we'll let everybody know. Right, and I can get the line set up. Trying to keep everything on the same line that we already use, because people are used to that. But what Joe and I talked about at the beginning of the call is that when we go have full commission meetings versus executive committee meetings, that I'm going to see if we can use the 100-seat line, just in case our audiences grow, which we hope that they do, that we make sure we always have capacity. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep. Do we pay for? I mean, is there a cost 100 to the 26 line? It's covered rate. I mean, it is an in-kind with ASMI and NSEMSO. Okay, cool. Okay. Joe, one thing that's on the agenda that I actually didn't have a slide for, and I apologize, is just if any of the compact states have updates. And I had sent people a reminder, just if they had any particular update, they wanted to share anything in their state, commission related or not. Why don't you go, you have the agenda or the attendees right in front of you. Can you just call out the state and then we'll see how it goes? Sure. We'll start Wayne Denny from Idaho.
I don't have an update as far as Replica goes, so I won't take up time with just general goings on. Okay. Joe House. Thanks, Wayne. Joe House from Kansas.
So as we talked over the board meeting, Kansas will be pursuing the FBI background check because we haven't been doing that to date, but it was known during when we were going through the Replica legislation that would be a requirement that we would start on and have done in time. So I don't think we'll be pushing anything this legislative session unless there comes a driving force that we'll be looking at hitting that beginning in 2019.
Okay.
Kansas.
Thank you, Kansas. Elisa Williams, Mississippi.
Hi. We will actually, so we got our Attorney General to review our law on criminal background checks, and they thought we should specifically name EMS to make sure that we could do it. We would clearly have the authority to do that as part of Replica, so we actually have language going forward in this legislative session to make that happen, and there seems to be no opposition.
Okay.
I'll keep you posted.
Great. Thanks, Elisa. Let me know if you need anything. Gary Brown from Virginia, the Commonwealth.
Yes, I no report. Tennessee is the only state that borders us that has passed Replica, so we're hoping that some of the other border states around Virginia will come on soon. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. Stephen Wilson, Alabama.
I'm in the same boat with the FBI background checks. We're submitting legislation to get the FBI background checks because, as we found out, the Replica language is not strong enough to make that happen. So I thank Keith from Georgia for helping me out with putting that legislation together.
Great. And again, if I can be of assistance, let me know. Andy Gienap from Wyoming.
Are you just asking for a, I got totally distracted, but are you asking for an update with regard to Replica in Wyoming?
Replica or anything else that you want to tell us about that's happening in Wyoming?
Got it. Well, it snowed.
Yeah.
No, probably the biggest thing related to Replica is that I have a massive rule change going through. So even though Wyoming is an either or state right now as it relates to National Registry, we still got to change the rules based on Replica in order to make the National Registry mandatory. So, but there's about a half a dozen other things that are included in that rule change. It's just been a huge lift to include Narcan and Epi and a bunch of other stuff. Anyway, but I think I've almost got that out the door, and we'll have that tied up. But if I may, I'm curious to Stephen's comment about the interpretation. What did you get any clarification as to why the Replica language was not strong enough to give you authority to require a background check?
So, Andy, from what I understand from all the attorneys that I've spoke with and from our state law enforcement agency, that it has to be very specific, as Elisa was alluding to earlier. It's got to be very specific to the EMS office to give you the authority for the FBI background checks. I've done a lot of research on it, and I got Donna and Keith to send me their legislation because they were currently doing it, and Georgia's legislation, reading it, was very, very specific to the EMS office. So that is what our attorneys chose to go with. So we're going to submit legislation very, very similar to what Georgia has in place currently. Okay. But the model legislation for Replica, from what I'm being told, is not the appropriate language for the FBI to approve it.
Interesting.
If I may, Rick Masters and Tom Abram both spoke to this at the commission meeting. And if I haven't already sent out a link to, I'll send it out today, the Interstate Medical Licensure Compact went through this clarification as well. It's about whether the statute, the Replica statute itself, model legislation, is it's not the enabling authority for establishing the authority to conduct these FBI compliant background checks. This has to stand alone if it doesn't already.
And so Mississippi has a criminal background check law currently on the books. And what we're trying to, it's not part of Replica, but their review, my Attorney General's review, actually looked at that existing law, and it wasn't clear enough because it didn't specifically name emergency medical services. And they want that corrected, and any other additional detail that we need in order to make the magic happen. So I'm sorry I didn't clarify that, but he didn't look, our AGs didn't look at the Replica law. They looked at the existing background check law, and that's what needed to be specific.
Yeah, now we are submitting it as a separate piece. We're not amending Replica for it. Where in Alabama, our attorneys suggested that we submit it as a separate piece of legislation.
As it should be. Okay. Lisa, Gary, Stephen, Andy. So Joe Schmieder, Texas.
There is snow in Texas, Andy, but it only lasted about 2 hours. But no, I have nothing to report, Sue.
Okay.
Nothing new to report.
Jean Marie.
So in Colorado, we actually call it certification here instead of licensure. So we certify our EMS providers external to our department here. We've heard word that there's going to be a bill run in the upcoming session starting in January to change that from certification to licensure, which is fine. That would be something that we would support. But while that statute is open and the bill, is going through, we would be very interested in making a few other changes specific to Replica. So we're looking forward to a busy session here.
Okay, great, thanks. Guy Dancy,
Thank you.
Utah.
Thanks, Jean Marie. Actually, we did that same thing last year in Utah. We passed some legislation renaming our certification for personnel to licensure. So if you're interested, we did that legislation last year, and and it went through unopposed by anybody. The thing I'm doing this year is working on rules, kind of like Andy. I'm doing basically a revamp of all the rules to change the licensure nomenclature, remove the certification. We're working on a lot of other little things in the rules. A lot of it is our review process after somebody has a problem with their background. And so we're working on that. The other big thing is we're moving from a 4-year personnel licensure period to a 2-year. But before we do that, we need to reduce the fee that we currently charge. We're dropping it from $60 to $40 because the frequency will be twice as often. And so we have a legislative push to drop the fee down, and then after that takes place, probably in July, we will go to a 2-year licensure period. And then also we've taken on mirroring all of the training requirements that are currently in National Registry.
Great.
Hey, Sue.
Yep.
Hey, this is Andy again, Jean Marie. We did the same thing with licensure versus certification. It got a little weirder in Wyoming, of course, but we did that years ago. So between me and Utah, that's 2 of your border states that have done this, and you can certainly have my stuff too, and that'll help you make the case if that comes up in the legislature.
Thank you. I always appreciate my neighbors' support.
Great. Thank you.
Likewise, Jean.
And Diane Hainsworth in Delaware.
I apologize. I have no updates from Delaware. We already have the FBI background check and stuff in place, so we're just in a holding pattern right now.
Okay. Great. And unless Donna or Keith are on with us, have arrived, we're all set for state updates. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Sue. So we'll go into public comments. So before we do an update, I should have told you earlier, I did meet last week with the executive director and a couple members of the International Association of Firefighters in DC when I was there. It was a cordial meeting. They've raised some of their concerns, and then I'll address it back to them in writing. Donnie, did you have anything that you wanted to say on behalf of the registry? Is Donnie still on?
I have him on, but I think he's muted.
I see him there.
Yeah. But you know what? He's grayed out, so I'm not exactly sure, but I'll text him just keep going.
Okay, and then the other thing I just wanted to, Rick Masters, great guy we used, and we did business at the first meeting. His mom passed, and we just want to keep him and his family in their thoughts and prayers through the holidays and through the next year. I have nothing else. Any other public comments from anybody on the call?
Oh, he says he's on mute. Yeah. So he's
on mute?
I think he's bringing himself on.
Okay.
He's unable to mute. Oh. Let me wonder if he can chat. See if he can share the chat function. Yeah,
Mr. Brown, did you get a package from me yet? Gary?
Gary's on mute too. He says that Donnie says that he appreciates everybody's work, and he has no updates at this time.
Hey, Dan, did you have any words of wisdom you would like to dispel upon us?
No, I continue to pinch myself, frankly, that this is real.
Trust me, I'll pinch you too, because this is definitely real.
You can thank me later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have anything else. Anybody else have anything?
You are going
Then we'll end this call at, what is it, 35 after. I do wish everyone a happy...
Joe, you would need a motion to adjourn?
Yep. But I just want to, before we do that, I just wish everybody a happy holiday. And at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Is that Andy?
Yep.
Second.
Second.
Stephen.
Sounds Steven.
Steven, yeah.
Anybody want to stay on the call any longer?
Hell no.
Then let's have it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carrie. Happy holidays, everybody. Take care. And the EC will talk again on the 29th of December. Have a great
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.